while we were sleeping, Donald Trump was in Davos, Switzerland, with all the big boys worldwide, doubling down on his threats to take Greenland by any means necessary. Let me share with you the reporting from the BBC as this was happening.
His desire to take over Greenland.
1 second, guys. I want to make sure I have that for you. Okay, here we go.
President Trump has fired off more social media posts asserting his desire to take over Greenland as he prepares to meet European leaders in Switzerland. He marks the one-year anniversary of his return to the White House with a barrage of comments on Truth Social. Well, there's plenty to worry European and world leaders, not least this image that possibly sums up his expansionist vision for America. The AI-generated image that he posted on Truth Social shows the president planting the US flag on Greenland. While this one, also generated by AI, shows European leaders in the Oval Office and President Trump revealing a map that shows Greenland, Venezuela, and Canada as parts of the United States. And if all that wasn't concerning enough for Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, in another Truth Social post, President Trump has called the UK's decision to hand the Chagos Islands to Mauritius as an act of great stupidity. Well, the United States has a military base on one of the islands, Diego Garcia, and Mr. Trump said that the Prime Minister was being weak in abiding by a ruling by the UN's highest court.
So, yeah. The UN's highest court said Britain's occupation of this territory was illegal, so normal leaders follow the law. That is not how Donald Trump looks at the world. So we have Donald Trump at Davos doubling down on invading Greenland. And you may also know that over the weekend, he sent a letter. He sent a letter not to Norway, who is the country involved with the issuing of the Nobel Prize, right? Donald Trump did not get the Peace Prize, but he still somehow physically has the medal because Machado decided she wanted to curry favor with Trump and maybe she would become the leader of Venezuela. He grabbed the medal and dashed. Now, he sent a letter again, not to Norway, but to Denmark. And this letter he sent to Denmark said, because the Nobel Committee decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize, I don't have to care anymore about peace, and I must have Greenland. Now, I don't know if he's got Denmark confused with Norway or if Donald Trump is simply trying to threaten everyone in the NATO alliance, because it sure looks that way. Now, I want to read you, if you think that things are getting better, I'm going to have to share with you what Donald Trump tweeted out last night. Okay? So let me share this with you. Here is what he said. I had a very good telephone call with Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, concerning Greenland. I agreed to a meeting of the various parties in Davos, Switzerland. As I expressed to everyone very plainly, Greenland is imperative for national and world security. There can be no going back. On that, everyone agrees. Guys, no one agrees. The United States of America is the most powerful country anywhere on the globe by far. Much of the reason for this is a rebuilding of our military during my first term, which rebuilding continues at even more expedited pace. We are the only power that can ensure peace through the world, and it is done quite simply through strength. President Donald Trump. Guys, that is not what he is doing. He's not ensuring peace. He wants U.S. domination. And as we talked about before, he sees himself just like Putin and just like Xi, but he doesn't realize that he is not smarter than Putin, but he does obviously have a bigger economy and a bigger military that is not worn down by this war in Ukraine. So what Donald is doing now is he's actually threatening to stop supporting Ukraine in the war of aggression against Ukraine by Russia. He is threatening to end the U.S. support, essentially, unless he gets Greenland. And he did not, of course, say that explicitly, but that sure as hell is what he actually implied. And I want to let you know that we are absolutely not in great shape unless we have, it's just like not many people. We literally only need 3 Republicans in the House to agree to impeach Donald Trump. And this is a bigger number, 20 Republicans in the Senate who are willing to convict. And I know with our partisan politics and our craven Republicans, 20 seems impossible. But when you think about this, there are 23 people in the world, just 23, less than 2 dozen, who can stop this madman from blowing up NATO. Because let me tell you, when the North American Treaty Organization has to make a choice whether to come to the defense of Greenland, and because Denmark is a member of NATO, when they have to decide whether to do that, behind door 1 is a world war with the United States of America. Behind door 2 is appeasement and essentially the end of NATO, because the whole point of the NATO alliance is at its center, the collective defense. So what does that look like to you? Ain't great. Donald Trump is at war with NATO, essentially. And I say that in quotes. He's at war with Greenland. He is at war with Minnesota and all states and all cities where he perceives the people there to be resistant to his violent and unlawful immigration project, his project to ignore U.S. laws and violently, including up to murdering people in order to kidnap and take people either out of the country or put them in prison without due process. We're seeing this in the U.S. So again, he is at war with everybody right now. The man is a lunatic. And I want to say that 23 shouldn't be that big of a number. 23 Republicans. Now, I don't know who they are because there are so many from which to choose. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of faith in them that they will step up. Now, you may want to know what exactly is the collective defense in Article 5 of NATO. I imagine that you want to know that. Let's take a quick look at that, because I think this is the sort of legalistic aspect of what we are talking about here. So here we go. This comes from the NATO website. And what you are looking at here, this is a piece published on their website or updated in November of just, 2 months ago, November 12th. It's called Collective Defense and Article 5. Collective defense is NATO's most fundamental principle. Article 5 of the North American Treaty states that an armed attack against one NATO member shall be considered an attack against them all. It adds, since 1949, this unwavering pledge has bound together a group of like-minded countries from Europe and North America, and you can see them there, right? From Europe and North America, which have committed themselves to protecting each other in a spirit of solidarity. I like how this graphic here places the NATO logo in the center, connecting North America with the European countries who are signatories to the treaty. And of course, you can see there is Greenland. Now, let me add, okay, so this is Article 5, like I said, that states an armed attack against one NATO member is an attack against all of its members. Now, this is a key thing. Here's what it says. NATO's Article 5 is consistent with Article 51 of the United Nations Charter. Let me just stop sharing this so you don't have to stare at that. So this collective defense concept in Article 5 of this NATO agreement is consistent with the UN Charter, which is Article 51 of that charter. And I'm going to quote NATO, which recognizes that a state that is the victim of an armed attack has the inherent right to individual or collective self-defense and may request others to come to its assistance. Within the NATO context, Article 5 translates the right of self-defense into a mutual assistance obligation. To be clear, that means if Denmark asks other nations to come to its defense, they have to show up. Literally, if they don't, then NATO is broken. So the appeasement choice would have to come from Denmark. They would have to hand over Greenland, or NATO is broken, right? So again, behind door one is a world war with the United States, the European countries against us, and also Canada against us. And then behind door two is appeasement, where Denmark backs down. Now, just so you know, and I think a lot of you know this, there's only been one time since the creation of NATO, one time, that Article 5 has ever been invoked. And that was after the 9/11 terrorist attacks on the United States. So we have a lot of chutzpah to have used NATO when we wanted mutual aid, and now to use the threat of war to try to break this up. And let's keep in mind, supposedly after 9/11, we should have been going after, you would think, the people who were flying the planes into the Pentagon and to the Twin Towers, which of course we know were terrorists who were basically from Saudi Arabia. There wasn't a war in Saudi Arabia. We know that bin Laden was housed probably at that time in Afghanistan or Pakistan at that time. But who did we decide to attack? It was Iraq. So, go figure, but we still had NATO support with that attack on the U.S. Donald Trump is bringing danger to the world and to our shores. I want to maybe say something good, something hopeful about this situation, but I don't have all that much beyond the fact that we do have people in the Trump administration who are trying to dial down the temperature by pretending that Donald Trump has not actually gone off his rocker. But the reality is he has. And the position we are in now is Denmark did not go to the World Economic Forum at Davos, Switzerland. They are not wanting to have a humiliating confrontation with Donald Trump. And we don't know what will actually happen next, but we do know that Scott Bessent is got to be the biggest suck up, I think, who ever existed. He is over there in Switzerland carrying Donald Trump's water and telling people to calm down. I think calm down is actually not the message. I think everybody needs to pull out all of the stops and get this lunatic to stop. This is no time for appeasement. And what I want to share with you right now is the Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, who was willing to lie about tariffs here in Davos, trying to calm people down while at the same time reiterating Donald
financing the war against themselves.
Right.
Hold on one
Let's
second.
talk about,
But Joe,
Yeah.
what I do want to say is, same thing that
Okay. Let's go.
4 years in, the Europeans are still financing the war against themselves.
all right. Let's talk about,
But Joe, what I do want to say is, same thing that I said after Liberation Day on April 2nd. Everyone take a deep breath. Do not escalate. Do not escalate. And President Trump has a strategy here. Hear him out, and then everything will be fine.
When
4 years in, the Europeans are still.
You know what that reminds me of? It's saying, don't fight. It will hurt more, or he will kill you. It sounds a lot like not fighting back against a sexual assaulter. He is also stupid to liken this to so-called Liberation Day. Remember the day when all the tariffs were announced? Because as I said, Scott Bessent will lie for Trump. So let's first start with the Greenland situation. Not great. I don't know what's going to happen in Davos. I think Donald Trump believes he can threaten and bolster and bluster his way through this. I really hope that Denmark stands firm. This has to come down to a confrontation. We cannot allow, I hope Europe cannot allow NATO to back down, to allow Denmark to back down. But again, there is this veiled threat that U.S. will surrender Ukraine to Putin if he can't get Greenland. Well, guess what? He's going to do that anyway. This is where we are. Now let's go back to tariffs. Bessent is stupid enough to say, I told everyone, don't retaliate. Calm down. Well, other countries did retaliate, and Donald Trump's tariffs didn't work great. But now he's threatening a new round of tariffs. And I want to let you know a couple things. The Wall Street Journal has now reported that, and everything we told you was the case, that the tariffs are being paid or ultimately by American consumers. Now, Donald kept saying other countries pay the tariffs. And then Bessent hemmed and hawed and said, well, no, it's, because the reality is, as you know, the tariff is quite literally paid by the company that imports the goods. But Bessent was saying, well, the exporter will give a discount. So, these American businesses that are importing these goods, they're not actually paying so much. Maybe the exporter will cut their prices. And then Bessent and these other people said, well, and maybe the importer, the business, will also cut its prices so they won't be so high for consumers. And then Donald Trump says, you're selfish kids. They shouldn't get so many pencils for Christmas or so many dolls. Give them less. So we got a lot of contradictory information. And all of us wondered, even though we know who writes the check for the tariff is the company that imports the goods. And even though we know those importers are going to pass along those costs to retailers and then to consumers, we never actually knew how much got sent down to the consumer. We didn't really know how much those foreign exporters were absorbing this. But now we know. And that is because the Wall Street Journal just put out an article yesterday. I'm going to share this with you. No shocks here. Americans are the ones paying for tariff study finds. Okay, so this was published yesterday. Research contradicts President Trump's claim that foreigners are footing the bill and could weaken his hand in the dispute over Greenland. Okay, so let me show you this here. Here's the quick summary. New research indicates that Americans bear 96% of U.S. tariff costs, with foreign exporters absorbing only 4% by lowering their prices. U.S. tariffs function as a consumption tax on Americans, contributing to $200 billion in additional tariff revenue last year. That means that $200 billion, 96% of that, 96% of that was paid by us. Or said differently, only $8 billion was paid by foreign countries. We paid, did I just do that right? I think so. Only 100. We paid 100, and I'm probably, my math is wrong. I probably just did that wrong, but I think that's right, because if it was 100 billion, we would have paid 96 billion. So multiply that by 2. Basically, we are paying nearly all of that, $192 billion in additional taxes. When Donald Trump brags that he brought in $200 billion from foreign countries in his tariff, he did not. He charged us consumption taxes of $192 billion. It came from your pockets. How do you feel about those lies? So why, though, what I want to ask you is, why is the Wall Street Journal saying this could hurt Donald Trump with Greenland? Well, it's because Donald Trump is trying to use tariffs in order to threaten Europe, right? If they won't support his efforts to take over Greenland. And if you want to know what is going on in the markets right now, you can see right now that because of what Donald Trump is doing, the world is nervous about where he is going with Greenland. The stock market has not opened yet. It will open at 9:30 in 2 minutes, but Dow futures are down 1.47%. The S&P futures down 1.56%. It goes on and on. The market is feeling Donald Trump's madness. Will that make a difference? I don't know. I would hope so. I would hope so, that there is somebody who has the power to push these just 23 people across the entire globe who can stop a war. 23 people, right? The world population right now is around 8.3 billion people. 8.3 billion people. And there are 23 of them. You just need 23 to stop what could be a world war or the end of a very important organization that protected peace throughout Europe and with North America. I wish I had that kind of power, but you and I don't. But what we do have, again, is the power to today walk out. And the walkout is, of course, not about Donald Trump's war with Europe, but it's his war with American cities, his war with Minneapolis. And that will make a difference. We need to participate in that walkout. Now, I'm going to show you that again. This ICE walkout with the individual and others. And I think it's actually a women's march because today is of course, the anniversary. Here we go. Let me just give you that link. Sorry, guys. So this is the plan. This is the Free America walkout. Okay, it's a mass walkout today. Let me just share this. I'm going to share this tab with you, and then I'm also going to drop this in the chat. Here we go. Okay, so you can go to this link and you can find a way to walk out. This will be a mass walkout organized by many organizations, the Women's March 50501. It's today at 2 p.m. in your time zone. This is a mass walkout to protest Trump's cruelty and the inaction of our lawmakers. And there is, I'm going to show you, here we go. This is, again, Free America walkout. Don't just walk out, step up. And this is how you can organize. Here are the different actions. You can, I'm going to stop sharing this now. I want you to find one near you, please. It is essential. Now, I wish whoever here has Thom Tillis as their senator. I really do wish that you know that we're saying that Tillis has had a backbone, but his backbone has only come because he's not running for office again. But I really wish that we could push harder on Tillis, because what is happening now is he is not living up to what he could be doing. When it comes to this war, instead of saying, and he has said before, it's ridiculous what Donald Trump is planning to do in Greenland. We know he has said that. We have showed his clips before. But the problem we are facing now is he doesn't have the courage to call for an impeachment. Others are doing that, but not Thom Tillis. So if you are from North Carolina, or you know anyone from North Carolina, I want you to watch this and get on the phone and call Thom Tillis. Let's first watch this and I'll get you the phone number. And in fact, you don't even have to be from North Carolina. It helps if you're his constituent. The reality is he doesn't really care about his constituents. He's not running again. So maybe everybody can call him. Let me play this for you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And to be clear, I'm not critical of the president. I'm critical of the bad advice he's getting on Greenland.
Okay, well, thank you.
Oh, thank you. And to be clear.
So he is. So one thing, he's kind of still trying to say and kind of hem and haw about that. But he was literally also asked, literally also asked about what would he support an impeachment. And he said no, he would go for a war powers resolution. That is not helpful whatsoever. Now, I also want to share with you, again, this links the tariffs to the strategy. The most unctuous, phony, awful person, one of them, is Scott Bessent. And here he is. And here he is talking about his strategy. He's over at Davos. His strategy to get Denmark to give up Greenland, he says, is imposing tariffs on Denmark. The tariffs are not imposed on Denmark. They're imposed on us. We just saw that. So let's play this. Okay, there's Maria Bartiromo looking skeptical over, she's at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland. And let me play it.
The plans for tariffs on Europe then?
Well, we're in the midst of completing a very good trade deal for both sides. So the plan is to go ahead with the trade deal. Of course, the president has said that he, on February 1st, will implement a 10% tariff if the Danes do not want to give up Greenland. And it is on the 8 countries that sent troops to Greenland.
So what do you want the plans for tariffs on Europe then?
8 countries have already, as he said, sent troops to Greenland for exercises to show, have them there ready. Now, guys, this is a malignant clown car. These people are out of control. So let me give you what you can do. And here it is. Here's a number to call Tom Tillis. Call Tom Tillis. Say, get a backbone. Say, please be one of the 20 Republican senators who will commit to the impeachment trial, convict to voting to convict Donald Trump. It's time. It doesn't matter whether he invades Greenland. You saw he is threatening not just Greenland, but Canada. We've seen what he's done in Venezuela, what he's doing in American cities. 202-224-3121, right? And you just need to call and say enough is enough. But I think the most important thing that you can actually do, my friends, is actually just walk out. Now, I've got a few more things for you, and we absolutely do deserve crazy town today. But what is happening today, also beginning today at 10 at the United States Supreme Court, the court is going to decide whether the Fed is special, whether the president can fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook or not, right? That is a huge issue. So far, the Supreme Court has taken the position that the president can fire any agency head, right? And here the question is whether for cause. So far, the position has been the Fed is different, that he would not actually be able to fire Lisa Cook. Now, what's interesting is today, Fed Chair Jerome Powell will be there at the Supreme Court arguments. Now, the court begins at 10, and they usually announce opinions before they end up hearing oral argument. It is quite possible that we hear some big case announcements today at 10. and I will report on those tomorrow. But as for Lisa Cook, the story here is that a federal judge blocked Donald Trump from firing her. This was in September 9th. While this lawsuit begins, because she challenged her firing. And in the federal appeals court, so the trial court said, until this case is over, we're going to keep the status quo. Donald Trump cannot kick her off the Fed. The appellate court said, we agree. And what's happening right now is the Department of Justice has asked the Supreme Court to allow them to kick Lisa Cook out. They're saying the lower court should not have done that. Okay. Now, this is going to be something big to watch. I also have a feeling there may be other major decisions today, but who knows? Now, we also have, of course, some breaking news. The Dow is now open, and on open, it has dropped 700 points. Let me share this with you. The Dow dropped 700 points as Trump's Greenland scheme sparks U.S. Capitol flight, fear of a global trade war. Great, Donald. You're doing great. Okay. What I want to share with you now is something absolutely fun and crazy that happened last night on Blue Sky. It literally was like the old days on Twitter, like Twitter, in 2015, when there was everyone talking about feral hogs that were loose, or someone who ordered grasshoppers to feed one of his pets and they got out of the box and were flying all over the house. There are things that we loved and remembered from the community, the flippin' community of back in the day of Twitter. And some of us think, could Blue Sky ever be similar to that? Well, last night, there was this absolutely crazy situation with this guy who woke up on a bus that was supposed to be headed to Washington, D.C. And it turns out that his fellow travelers realized the bus was not going there. And for a while, it was pretty scary because the bus driver seemed to be speeding and said he was not going to let them off where they said. He refused to answer the phone calls from the bus company. People on the bus decided to call the bus company and put them on the speakerphone. And it just, it got crazy from there. So I want to share this with you because it is so fun. And I've got a second helping of Crazy Town after this. Okay, let's play this. This is something I'm not sure all of you would have seen. Okay, guys, I'm going to blow this up as big as I can so you can follow along. So apparently there is someone known as Musicology Duck. And this began 12 hours ago. So last night, or a little after 9, here's how we start. I just woke up from a nap, and somehow while I was asleep, everyone on the bus has figured out we are not going to the right place. They switched drivers at a rest stop, and the new driver is telling everyone that they're on the wrong bus. He is refusing to talk to anyone while he is driving and is now just driving really fast. People are calling the police. I think I might end up in Vienna, Virginia, but I'm not sure. 2 big guys just went up and said, "We're going to Union Station." And he said, "No, we're not." Someone got the bus company. You can see this, right? I'm going to do this so it's not as annoying. Someone got the bus company on the phone. They're looking into it, but he's still insisting we're not going to Washington, D.C. It's particularly weird because this route only has 3 stops: Penn Station, Union Station, and DuPont Circle. The bus company says they are trying to call the driver and he's not answering. Someone pulled up Waze and said he's going 75 in a 55 zone. And the lady behind me says he's stopping in Vienna and Manassas. So I'm going to end up like an hour outside DC at 10 p.m. on a holiday, and also who knows where. Okay, someone got the bus company on speakerphone and is walking it up to the front of the bus. I can hear the bus company guy yelling, "You're going to Union Station." The lady, so this is a bus company guy at headquarters, "You're going to Union Station." The lady with the speakerphone hasn't come back to her seat yet. The company told him to take us to Union Station, and he screamed that he doesn't get paid enough and is refusing. Now, Musicology Duck adds, I unrecommend Best Bus. It goes on. 2 passengers in the front are still fighting with the driver. In the back, we're debating whether calling the police is going to set him off. The bus is divided on calling the police. If people take their phones up with the company reps on speakerphone, he grabs them and hangs them up. This is fucking crazy. People are screaming at him, "You're going to be fired." Passengers are now fighting with other passengers because they don't want the guy to be set off any more than he is. It seems like the consensus is to get him to just stop the bus somewhere. Oh my God. So I was following this in real time last night. Someone else tried to talk to the driver because we were almost to DC. And he says he has family to go home to and doesn't have time to stop in DC. I hope he has time to be arrested. Okay, someone called the police, but suggested they avoid pulling the bus over because he's driving so erratically. We're passing DC. Woman behind me is now screaming at the bus company on the phone. The company wasn't being super helpful, so she goes, "Just so you know, we just reported to the police that we're being kidnapped. But the area being what it is, we have to call different police. LOL. It sounds like they are going to have a different bus pick us up in Vienna. Some woman is really upset and is screaming at the driver. People are asking where we're supposed to stop, and we don't actually know because we were never supposed to stop here. LOL. Okay. So this is an hour later. Okay, he's getting off the highway and the lights just got on. The guy is insane. There he is. Passengers are blocking the bus from leaving. Obviously, guys, because they want him to get apprehended. So passengers are blocking the bus from leaving, and there's a kid under 18 who won't get off the bus because his mom said he was supposed to be at Union Station. Now here's a video. he was trying to crush this girl with the door. So there's this young woman who was trying to stop him by not letting him shut the door. And then he goes, what the FFF? He's okay. Then here we go. The company sent another bus to get us. And I feel like I probably should have taken the metro, but I'm hoping there's a company rep at Union Station to scream at. Crazy guy finally got everyone off the bus and drove off. Police didn't show, possibly because we couldn't figure out if it was supposed to be Vienna or Fairfax County. Sorry, my mentions are a wreck now. We'll be sending photos and videos to the company tomorrow, and we'll update if I learn anything about how this happened or what they did about it. But a thanks for tuning into this episode of Musicology Duck Gets Briefly Kidnapped. Updates. So now this is 2 hours after he wakes up from his nap, realizing the bus driver has kidnapped them. Updates. Nobody from the bus company was in the booth at Union Station. Also, people are asking about the kid I mentioned. He got off when the second bus arrived, but we had to make the original driver get his luggage out from underneath. And he was, unsurprisingly, a real jerk about that too. Also, a clarification based on people's comments. The driver wouldn't give us his name, but he was apparently French. At one point, a passenger even started arguing with him in French, thinking he just wasn't understanding. Okay, now 2 hours ago, we have an update. Update. Woke up to a refund and an apology by 7 a.m. This is quoting this apology from the bus company. We sincerely apologize for the experience you had during your trip on January 19th. We understand how upsetting and concerning this situation was, and we apologize for the inconvenience it caused. The matter is currently being reviewed by our management team. While the investigation is underway, we want to assure you that this was an isolated incident and not reflective of our usual service. As a resolution, all passengers on board will receive a refund for this trip, along with a round-trip travel credit for future use. Your refund will be processed on our end, and we may take 3 to 5 days to reflect in your account. Thank you for your patience, and again, we apologize for the disruption to your travel plans. Is that not batshit crazy? Holy shit. Now, there was some speculation in the mentions and the comments below here that what went on is possibly these bus companies hire gig drivers, right? Gig drivers. So what they think, you know how like you can get an Uber or a Lyft? What someone thinks is that this guy was listening on his radio and heard maybe a couple different options, and he made a mistake and thought this gig was a Manassas or Vienna, Virginia gig and not the Union Station. I have no idea, but I've got to tell you, I am not taking Best Bus. And the one thing about train travel is you stay on the tracks. You really can't be hijacked and taken off a different road. So I thought that is your first helping of Crazy Town. Now, of course, that cannot be your only Crazy Town. And so what I would like to share with you is a second Crazy Town. This is an instant classic. Yes, it is Scott Bessent again. in his doublespeak. And I really feel like when you see this, you will be fully amused. So remember, he is over in Davos trying to carry Donald Trump's water. And people are mostly concerned with the possibility of the U.S. invading Greenland. And keep in mind that at the time Bessent says this, we already had something kind of amazing, which was this, that the Catholic members, there is someone named the Archbishop Timothy Broglio, and he is the bishop responsible for all of the pastoral care of the entire U.S. military personnel, right? So it says this, he issued this statement, Catholic members of the U.S. Armed Forces could in good conscience consider disobeying orders to attack Greenland if such orders were issued. This is pretty flippin' intense. And so even with this backdrop, Bessent is making the rounds. This was yesterday, and asked about this new slate of tariffs. And remember, the Supreme Court is on the verge, as you know, of ruling. I believe that Donald Trump cannot use the International Economic Emergencies Powers Act to impose the tariffs he already has on imports from certain countries. And he is going to get slapped back on much of that. So here we have Scott Bessent being asked by Kristen Welker over the weekend, what is going on here? How can you justify this new slate of tariffs? And let's listen. It is, again, what someone called an instant classic. Here we go.
Waiting the High Court's decision. What is the national emergency that justifies these new slate of tariffs?
The national emergency is avoiding a national emergency. That it is a strategic decision.
The national emergency is avoiding a national emergency? Come on, man. Let me play you the whole clip. I just have got to tell you, these are lawless, manipulative, dangerous sycophants, and they all need to go. Okay, but this is Crazy Town. Let's play it. Okay, here I go. Listen to the whole clip, and then we'll end the show.
The High Court's decision. What is the national emergency that justifies these new slate of tariffs?
The national emergency is avoiding a national emergency. That it is a strategic decision by the president. This is a geopolitical decision, and he is able to use the economic might of the U.S. to avoid a hot war. So why wouldn't we do that? You know, same thing.
Waiting the High Court's decision.
I'm sorry. He's saying Donald Trump is threatening tariffs on imports from countries, including Denmark, and those supporting Denmark under the obligations, or planning to support Denmark under the NATO Article 5 obligations. And he literally just said that an economic emergency is avoiding an economic emergency, and saying that Donald Trump is avoiding a hot war by imposing tariffs. I mean, if this isn't the craziest thing you have heard, I don't know what is. But again, layered on top of this is that in our world, we have so many people who are dependent. We have over 8 billion people on this planet at the mercy of 23 Republicans. It is unforgivable that they are not removing this man from office. Period. End of story. But we will walk out today at 2 p.m. If you're not working, you can still find a walkout. If you're not able to go out and walk out because of your personal abilities or the weather, tell everybody about it. And I will see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Hopefully, we will not be at war. Thank you. I mean, glad I have you with me, because otherwise I might be living full time in Crazy Town.
Hello, prison mates. It's the Taub show. Well, welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There was hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Taub show.